The Galactic Council had always been careful with its reach across the universe. With members from different planets, species, and civilizations, the Council was responsible for maintaining balance and peace across the galaxy. They had their eyes on many planets, but Earth was one they hadn't given much attention to. It was a small, primitive world, tucked away in a far corner of the galaxy. The humans, they thought, were a species with no real importance. But everything changed the day they received an unexpected signal. It began as a simple transmission, a burst of static mixed with strange, coded messages. At first, the Council dismissed it as nothing more than a random cosmic disturbance. However, the signal repeated itself, and the pattern began to catch the attention of a young officer named Jara. She worked in the Council's communications division, responsible for monitoring strange signals from less-known planets. Jara had always been curious about Earth, a planet that had piqued her interest ever since her training days. She wasn't convinced that this was just a coincidence. The signal didn't seem random. It was too deliberate, too consistent. With a sense of urgency, Jara took it upon herself to decode the message. After hours of effort, she managed to uncover a hidden pattern. The code was clear, but the message was troubling. The signal was from Earth, but it wasn't a simple communication. It was an encrypted warning, a challenge. And what it hinted at was shocking. The message spoke of Earth's war machines, machines unlike anything the Council had ever seen or imagined. The message didn't explain much, but it was enough to send chills down Jara's spine. Humans, she realized, had developed something dangerous, something that could threaten the balance of power in the galaxy. Jara quickly reported her findings to the Council's higher-ups, but the reaction she received was not what she expected. Many of the Council members dismissed her discovery as insignificant. Earth is nothing more than a backwater planet, one elder counselor said with a wave of his hand. This is just a misunderstanding. Humans are primitive. But Jara was not convinced. Her instincts told her that there was something far more dangerous brewing on Earth. And though many of the Council members tried to ignore her, she could not shake the feeling that they were underestimating humanity. The young officer pushed harder. She requested permission to investigate Earth personally, to discover the truth behind the mysterious signal. It was a bold move, but the Council agreed, sending a small team of elite officers to make contact with the humans. As they prepared to leave, Jara's thoughts raced. What had the humans been hiding? What were these war machines? She had to find out before it was too late. The team of Galactic Council officers arrived on Earth in a sleek, silent ship, cloaked from human eyes. They landed in a remote area far from civilization. Jara stood at the front, her mind racing. This was her chance to uncover the truth about Earth's war machines, but she knew she had to be careful. The humans were unpredictable, and if they suspected the Council's true intentions, things could quickly escalate. The officers stepped out of the ship, their boots making soft crunching sounds against the dirt. The air on Earth was thick and smelled of damp earth. Jara could see the simple green forest stretching for miles around them, yet there was a hidden intensity in the atmosphere, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. The Earthlings didn't know it yet, but the Council was about to learn something they weren't prepared for. They made their way toward the human city, a mix of high-tech buildings and older structures. It wasn't a place of immense wealth or luxury, but there was something about it that made Jara feel uneasy. There were rumors of Earth's rapid technological advancements, but the Council had never truly taken them seriously, until now. The team arrived at a hidden facility deep within a mountain range. The humans had been careful about their location, knowing the Council could one day arrive. The place was well protected, guarded by soldiers who seemed more serious than any other humans Jara had seen. They weren't the nervous, helpless species the Council had expected. These humans were ready for something, and Jara had to find out what. They entered the facility, and what they saw inside made their hearts race. The walls were lined with metallic machines of all sizes, each more complex than the last. Jara's eyes widened as she saw the war machines, huge, powerful, and ready for battle. They were unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Their designs were efficient, raw, and innovative. Earth had outdone itself. The machines were not just tools of destruction. They were intelligent, adaptive, and built for war in a way that no one had anticipated. They could analyze, strategize, and evolve. The humans had created them not just for defense, but as weapons capable of overwhelming entire fleets. One of the engineers in charge of the facility, a tall human with sharp eyes, walked up to Jara. His expression was calm, but Jara could sense his pride. "These machines are the result of necessity," he explained. "We weren't trying to create a war machine. We created them to protect our world from threats we didn't fully understand." Jara listened intently, her mind trying to process what she was seeing. Earth wasn't just a small planet in a corner of the galaxy. These machines represented a new level of innovation and a drive for survival unlike anything she had ever encountered. The humans had adapted, and they had done it quickly. She couldn't help but wonder, what if these machines weren't just for defense? What if the humans had something bigger in mind? Their planet was small, yes, but their potential seemed limitless now. The officer in charge of the Council team gave Jara a sharp look. "We need to report back," he said. "These machines are dangerous. If Earth decides to use them offensively, the galaxy will never be the same." But Jara wasn't sure he understood yet. The humans hadn't shown their full potential, and she was beginning to fear that the Council might have made a grave mistake underestimating them. The Council officers were left in stunned silence as they stood among the towering war machines, each one gleaming with raw power. They had come to Earth expecting to find a primitive, unprepared species. Instead, they found humans who had not only developed advanced technology, but had built it for the sole purpose of survival. Jara could sense the unease growing among her fellow officers. They had been briefed on Earth's primitive history, their wars, and their limited reach in space, but nothing had prepared them for what they were now seeing. The machines weren't just pieces of technology. They were symbols of Earth's resilience, each one a testament to human ingenuity. The engineer who had greeted them earlier, a man named Lucas, began explaining how Earth had come to rely on these war machines. He spoke with pride, but also a quiet sense of urgency. "The machines were created during a period of great fear. We weren't always peaceful, but we had no choice but to evolve quickly. Our planet is full of dangers, both from within and from space. We didn't just build these machines for war. We built them to protect ourselves." Jara listened carefully, her mind racing. She could tell that Lucas wasn't just speaking about physical threats. There was a deeper meaning to his words. Humans, it seemed, had learned to protect themselves from more than just war. They had learned to defend themselves from the unknown. "We didn't expect to get involved with galactic politics," Lucas continued. "We've been isolated. But now that you found us, we're not sure we can trust your intentions." The words struck Jara hard. She had always thought of the humans as naive, easily influenced, but now she realized how much they had endured alone. Earth wasn't just fighting for survival against other species. It was fighting against the vast unknown of space itself. And the machines they had built were their shield. Her commanding officer, a seasoned council member named Doran, spoke up. His voice was firm, but there was a hint of doubt behind it. "These machines are too powerful. If Earth decides to use them against the Galactic Council, we won't be able to stop them." Lucas's eyes met Doran's with quiet resolve. "You're right. These machines are powerful, but we never meant to use them to conquer. We fought wars on our own planet, but that's all behind us now. We don't want conflict with the galaxy. We just want to be left in peace." Jara watched as the exchange unfolded. There was sincerity in Lucas's voice, but also something else. Fear. Fear of what might happen if the Council decided to see Earth as a threat rather than an ally. For the first time since arriving on Earth, Jara felt a flicker of doubt. The Council's message had been clear: Earth must be controlled. But now, standing before the humans who had created these incredible machines, Jara wasn't so sure. Could humanity truly be as dangerous as they had thought? Suddenly, the hum of machinery filled the air as one of the war machines powered up, its massive limbs moving with surprising grace. The humans had no idea how much impact their technology would have on the rest of the galaxy. As Jara watched the machine move, she understood this was no longer just a matter of military might. It was about understanding Earth's place in a galaxy full of powers that humans could barely comprehend. As the days passed, Jara's doubts only grew stronger. She had spent hours observing Earth's war machines, speaking to their creators, and listening to the humans explain their need for such powerful tools. The more she learned, the more she realized that Earth was not the primitive world the Council had once thought it to be. The humans had their own understanding of power, and it wasn't just about destruction. It was about survival. Back aboard the Council's ship, the officers gathered in a meeting room, their faces tense. Jara sat quietly, her thoughts still on the humans. She was no longer sure what to think. The Council's top leaders had demanded a full report, and her superior officer, Doran, was ready to make decisions. "We've seen the machines," Doran said, his voice cold. "They're advanced, yes. But more importantly, they're dangerous. If Earth's leaders are anything like their creations, they won't hesitate to use them against us. They might be playing coy now, but we can't trust them." Jara shifted in her seat, her eyes narrowing. But they've shown no aggression. They just want peace. They've built these machines to protect their world, not to threaten the galaxy. Doran's gaze was sharp, his tone even sharper. The very fact that they've built them is a threat. A species that can create such powerful weapons will never be content with mere defense. Earth's leaders might claim they want peace, but when the opportunity presents itself, they will use these machines to take what they want. Jara's heart sank as she listened. She had expected the Council to be cautious, but she hadn't expected this kind of reaction. In her mind, the humans were not the threat. It was the Council's old way of thinking, their unwillingness to understand the truth about Earth. A Council elder named Valner spoke up, his voice low but forceful. "The Council cannot afford to let Earth remain unchecked. If their war machines fall into the wrong hands, they could change the course of history. We must act quickly and decisively." Jara's thoughts raced. What would they do next? The Council was already preparing to send a fleet to Earth to enforce control, but Jara felt deep in her bones that this was the wrong move. If they acted with aggression, Earth might see them as invaders, and that would lead to nothing but war. "I understand the Council's concerns," Jara said carefully, breaking the silence. "But if we send a fleet, we'll be sending a message of force. We won't just be controlling Earth. We'll be starting a conflict. The humans may not want war, but if we push them, they'll have no choice." Doran looked at her, his face hard. "Your feelings are noted, Jara, but we have to consider the bigger picture. Earth's power is growing, and if we don't act now, we may be facing a much larger threat down the road." The room grew quiet as the Council members debated, their voices rising and falling. Jara felt a weight settle on her chest. She could see where this was going, and she wasn't sure the Council was prepared for what would come next. In that moment, Jara knew that Earth's fate was no longer in the hands of the Council alone. The humans had a choice to make: accept the Council's dominance or fight for their independence. But if war came, Jara feared it would be the galaxy that would pay the price. Jara could no longer ignore the rising tension in the Council. The debate over Earth's war machines had reached a boiling point. She had hoped for a peaceful resolution, but the Council's decision was becoming clearer by the minute. They were preparing for action, not diplomacy. What had started as a mission of discovery was now turning into a confrontation. On Earth, the humans were unaware of the Council's decision. They were still in the dark about the gravity of the situation, but Jara knew that everything was about to change. The message from Earth had been clear. These war machines were built not for aggression, but for defense. The humans didn't want to be a part of galactic politics. They simply wanted to be left alone. But Jara also knew that the Council saw things differently. To them, Earth's power was a threat, one that could not be ignored. The higher-ups believed that if they allowed Earth to remain free, it would encourage other planets to rise up and challenge the Council's authority. And if Earth's machines fell into the wrong hands, there could be devastating consequences for the entire galaxy. Jara stood before the Council, her heart heavy with the weight of her own thoughts. She had just returned from another visit to the human base, and the images of the machines were still fresh in her mind. They were unlike anything she had ever seen. Built for speed, strength, and intelligence, the war machines were perfect tools for defense or for destruction. The humans were adapting faster than anyone had anticipated. The Council had underestimated their ability to innovate, to create, but there was something more unsettling. During her visit, Jara had learned that the humans weren't the only ones who had noticed the rise of their military might. Someone else had taken an interest in Earth's war machines, someone with much darker intentions. Jara had overheard whispers among the humans. A group, hidden within the shadows of their military leadership, had begun to question the true purpose of the war machines. This group, led by an influential general, believed that Earth's future lay not in peaceful defense, but in taking control of their place in the galaxy. The humans had the power to defend themselves, but there were those who thought they could use that power to dominate. The realization hit Jara like a wave. While the Council was focused on preventing Earth from becoming a threat, they hadn't realized that Earth's biggest challenge was not the Galactic Council, it was the growing division within their own ranks. The true danger to Earth, Jara feared, might not come from the Council at all. It could come from within. As Jara returned to the Council's meeting room, she couldn't shake the feeling of urgency. The internal conflict on Earth was something the Council hadn't accounted for. If the rogue human faction gained control of the war machines, they could unleash chaos across the galaxy. Earth would no longer be a planet in hiding. It would become a force capable of shifting the balance of power. She had to act quickly. Jara knew that the Council's decision to send a fleet might not be the right answer anymore. The stakes had changed. It wasn't just about controlling Earth's machines. It was about ensuring the humans didn't tear themselves apart in the process. But would anyone listen to her? Or would the Council proceed with their plans, blind to the new threat rising within Earth itself? The tension in the Council's ship had reached a breaking point. Jara could feel it in every conversation, every decision made. The Council had gathered all its forces, preparing for the next step. They were about to make their move, an overwhelming show of power aimed at controlling Earth. They had decided that the humans could no longer be trusted with their war machines. The fear of what Earth could become was too great. Jara stood at the front of the Council's command room, watching the map of Earth unfold on a large screen. Hundreds of ships, each more advanced than anything the humans could ever hope to create, were poised to launch. The mission was clear: secure the war machines and ensure Earth would never become a threat. "Ready the fleet," Doran's voice cut through the room, his tone sharp and cold. Jara's heart sank. The decision had been made. There was no turning back now. She had warned them. She had pleaded with them to consider another option, but the Council's leaders were too blinded by their own fear. They were too focused on controlling the power Earth had shown. They didn't see what she saw: that the real enemy was not Earth, but the division and fear creeping inside the Council itself. As the ships prepared to depart, Jara received an encrypted message. It was from Earth, a human leader, someone she had spoken with during her visit to their military base. The message was simple, but its implications were clear. "We know what you're planning. If you come here with force, we will fight back." Jara stared at the message, her mind racing. She hadn't expected the humans to be so aware of the Council's plans. Their response was not one of fear, but defiance. They were ready to protect themselves, to fight if necessary. The humans weren't going to surrender easily. "Jara," Doran's voice broke through her thoughts. You need to get to the surface. We're moving in. Jara's stomach twisted. She had to make a decision now. Stay with the council and follow orders, or warn the humans and try to stop the inevitable. The path ahead was unclear, but she couldn't ignore the truth. Earth wasn't ready to be controlled. The humans had shown their strength, and they weren't going to back down without a fight. With a heavy heart, Jara turned away from the council's fleet map. "I'm not going with you," she said, her voice firm but filled with hesitation. Doran stared at her, disbelief flashing across his face. "What do you mean, you're not going with us?" he demanded. "You're one of us. We have a mission to complete." "I can't be part of this," Jara replied. "I know what the humans have built. I know their strength. You're making a grave mistake. If we attack now, we might trigger a war that we can't stop." Doran's face reddened. "You're siding with them." He took a step toward her, his voice rising. "You're forgetting your duty, Jara. We cannot let Earth go unchecked. You're making a terrible choice." Jara didn't respond. She couldn't be part of this conflict anymore. The path was too dangerous. Her mind was made up. She had to warn the humans. She turned and left the command room, her heart pounding. The countdown to the fleet's departure had already begun, but Jara wasn't going to follow through. She had to do something, anything, to prevent the destruction of Earth. The next few hours would change everything. Jara's heart raced as she rushed toward the communication center. She had left the Council's fleet without a second thought, fully aware that she was now alone. She could feel the weight of her decision pressing down on her shoulders. She had chosen to defy the Council's orders, but what good would it do if Earth's war machines turned against the galaxy? What would happen if the Council launched their attack, and the humans fought back? The galaxy would be at war, and Earth would be caught in the middle. She had to warn them, but she knew it wouldn't be easy. The humans weren't just going to trust her. They had their own secrets, their own fears, and even if she reached them, would they believe her? Would they be willing to listen, or would they assume that the Council's fleet was already too close? Jara reached the communication center and quickly sent a signal to Earth, hoping that someone, anyone, would be listening. She didn't have time to explain everything in detail, but she knew she had to act fast. The message was simple but urgent. The Galactic Council is coming to Earth. They plan to take control of your war machines. If you resist, there will be a conflict. I cannot stop them, but I am warning you. Prepare yourself. She hesitated for a moment, staring at the blinking transmission screen. She could only hope they received the message in time. Meanwhile, on Earth, the military leaders were already aware that something was wrong. The signal Jara had sent wasn't the only thing they had picked up. They had long known that the Council was watching them, but they hadn't expected an attack. Now, with the Council's fleet on its way, the situation had become more serious than ever. The humans had already prepared their defenses. The war machines, designed for protection, were now primed for battle. The once peaceful planet was now on the brink of war. But there was another player in this game, someone who had been quietly watching from the shadows. General Halston, the leader of the rogue faction Jara had overheard about, had always believed that Earth's future lay in taking control of the galaxy, not just defending itself. The war machines, in his eyes, were the key to a new era for humanity. A new era where Earth would no longer be at the mercy of other worlds. Halston had heard the message too. But instead of retreating or preparing for peace, he saw it as an opportunity. An opportunity to take the fight to the Council and force them to acknowledge humanity's power. "I've been waiting for this moment," General Halston said, his voice cold as he stood before the war machines. "We won't just protect our planet. We'll show the galaxy what Earth is capable of." Jara had feared this moment. The division within Earth's leadership was greater than she had realized. While some humans still wanted peace, others, like General Halston, saw this as their chance to rise up, to be more than just survivors. Jara's message had been a warning, but now she realized that the true test would be whether humanity would choose peace or war. She had to find a way to stop Halston, to convince the peaceful leaders to stand firm against him before the war machines tore the galaxy apart. As Jara prepared to return to Earth, she knew that the fate of the planet and the galaxy was hanging in the balance. She couldn't fight the Council alone, and she couldn't let Earth destroy itself either. She needed help. She needed allies. And somewhere, deep inside her, Jara knew that her destiny was now tied to the future of Earth itself. Jara's ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, the blue and green planet growing larger with each passing second. Her mind was filled with thoughts of what awaited her below. The Council had sent a fleet, and Earth's war machines were already in position. It was no longer just a matter of a few isolated factions within Earth's leadership. Now the entire fate of the planet, and perhaps the galaxy, was in her hands. The war machines, built to protect Earth, were now ready for a conflict they had never been meant for. The humans were determined to defend their planet, but at what cost? The rogue faction, led by General Halston, was ready to take this fight further than Jara had ever imagined. Halston didn't just want to defend Earth. He wanted to dominate the galaxy, and with the power of the war machines, he believed he could. Jara had hoped to stop this, to prevent the worst from happening. But as her ship landed on the surface, she realized just how close they were to the edge. There was no time left for hesitation. She made her way to the military command center, her feet moving quickly as she passed through halls filled with the hum of technology. Soldiers gave her wary glances, some of them unsure of who she was and what her true intentions might be. Word had already spread that she had defied the Council, and many didn't trust her, but she couldn't worry about that now. The situation had reached a point where trust no longer mattered. What mattered now was whether she could convince the humans to stand together against the Council's fleet and against General Halston. Inside the command center, she found the leaders of Earth's peaceful faction. There, standing in a room full of tension, was Lucas, the engineer who had first shown her the war machines. His face was drawn with worry, but he stood firm. "We've received your message," he said, his voice steady, "and we know what's coming. The Council isn't just here to control us. They want to crush us before we even get a chance to prove ourselves." Jara nodded. "And that's why we have to stop Halston. He's not only putting Earth at risk, but he's also playing right into the Council's hands. If we don't stop him now, we'll have no chance of negotiating peace. We'll be at war with everyone." Lucas glanced around at the other leaders, their faces filled with uncertainty. "We're outnumbered, Jara. The Council has weapons we can't even begin to match, and Halston's faction isn't helping matters. He's already preparing the war machines for battle. If we don't strike first, Earth may be destroyed before we even get a chance to defend it." "I know," Jara replied, her voice quiet but firm. "But we have to find another way. We can't let the Council control us, and we can't let Halston tear everything apart." The room fell silent. Then, unexpectedly, one of the military commanders spoke up. "If we don't act now, we'll be at the mercy of the Council. We've worked too hard to get here. Earth won't survive if we let them dictate our future." It was clear that the humans were divided. Some wanted to fight, while others wanted peace. The war machines were capable of destroying entire fleets, but the cost of using them could be even greater. Would they fight for their survival, or would they negotiate for peace? The choice was no longer just about Earth's defense. It was about the galaxy's future. Jara knew that no matter what happened next, everything would change. There was no turning back now. As the minutes ticked down, Jara prepared herself for what would come. Earth had already been tested. Now it was her turn to help them pass. Jara stood at the edge of the military command center, her eyes fixed on the massive war machines lined up outside. They were ready, their engines humming softly, waiting for the order to move. The humans had made their decision. Earth would fight. She had hoped for a peaceful solution, but it was clear now that Earth's future was in their hands alone. The Council's fleet was on its way, and General Halston's faction was preparing to launch the first strike. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about proving that humanity could stand on its own. The stakes were higher than ever. The Council's fleet was already approaching Earth's orbit, and every minute counted. The countdown had begun. Soon, the war machines would be activated, and the battle for Earth's future would unfold in ways no one could predict. "We can't hold them off forever," Lucas said, his voice tight with anxiety. "The Council's fleet is too powerful. Even with our war machines, we might not stand a chance." Jara turned to face him, her expression grim. "We don't have a choice. We either fight or we surrender. The Council has made it clear that they want to control us. If we give up now, we'll lose everything we've built." Lucas nodded, but there was still doubt in his eyes. He wasn't sure they could win, and Jara wasn't sure either. But one thing was clear: if they didn't act now, they would never have a chance to prove themselves to the galaxy. The military leaders were huddled together, whispering among themselves. Some were eager to fight, convinced that Earth's machines would be enough to turn the tide. Others were more hesitant, fearing the devastation that would come with war. Jara knew that she had to make a decision, and fast. She walked up to the command console and looked at the massive map of the battlefield. The Council's ships were closing in, their weapons ready to fire. But Earth wasn't alone. There were factions within the Council that supported Earth's right to choose its own path, and some of them had already begun to take action. "We're not just fighting the Council," Jara said, her voice clear and firm. "We're fighting for our independence. We're fighting for our future." The room fell silent. The weight of her words hung in the air. The war machines, the humans, and their hopes for survival all rested on this single moment. "Activate the war machines," Jara ordered. "Let the Council know that we won't back down." The control room buzzed with activity as the order was passed along. The massive machines slowly powered up, their towering forms shifting as they prepared for battle. Jara felt a chill run down her spine as she watched the machines come to life. This wasn't just a battle for Earth's survival, it was a battle for its future, its place in the galaxy. Outside, the war machines began to move. The ground shook as their enormous feet pounded against the Earth. They were unstoppable. But Jara couldn't help but wonder if this would be enough. Would the humans be able to hold their own against the might of the Galactic Council? The Council's fleet was now in range, and the first blast of energy shot toward Earth. The battle had begun. Jara held her breath, watching the skies. This was it, the moment of truth. Would Earth's war machines be enough to defend them, or would it all be destroyed in the crossfire? The future of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, would be decided in the coming hours. The battle raged across the sky, a storm of light and sound as the Galactic Council's fleet clashed with Earth's war machines. Jara watched from the command center, her eyes fixed on the battlefield, her heart pounding in her chest. The first blast from the Council's ships had hit Earth's atmosphere with terrifying force, but the war machines had responded with equal power, their massive forms moving with precision and strength. On the ground, soldiers scrambled, directing the war machines into position. The ground shook with every step of the massive mechanical giants, their weapons charging and firing in rapid succession. Each shot from the Council's fleet was met with a barrage of energy from the machines. Earth wasn't just defending itself, it was proving something far greater, its right to exist as an independent force in the galaxy. Jara stood by the window, watching as the skies above were lit up by explosions. For the first time since she'd come to Earth, she felt a sense of hope, even amid the chaos. The humans had shown something that the Council had never anticipated: their resilience. Their strength was not just in their machines, but in their will to survive, to fight for their future. Inside the command room, the mood was tense. The humans' war machines had managed to hold their ground against the Council's fleet, but the battle was far from over. The Council's ships were regrouping, preparing for another wave of attack. But Earth's machines weren't backing down. "Jara," Lucas said, his voice tight with fear and determination, "we can't keep this up forever. Their ships are too powerful. We need a plan to end this. Jara turned to him, her mind racing. She knew Lucas was right. The war machines could only do so much. The Council's fleet was relentless, and Earth's defenses could only withstand so many hits. They needed to find a way to stop the battle before it destroyed everything they had worked for. "I've been thinking," Jara said, her voice steady. "We don't need to fight forever. We just need to show the Council that we're not afraid. If we can force them to the negotiating table, we might have a chance." "How do we do that?" Lucas asked, his eyes filled with doubt. "We don't just fight. We make them understand that we're not a threat to the galaxy. We're just trying to survive. We send a message, a signal." Jara quickly relayed her plan to the other leaders in the command room. It was risky, but it was their best chance. They would use one of the war machines, a giant known as Titan, to break through the Council's lines and send a message to their ships, a message of peace, but with the power to back it up. With little time to lose, the order was given. Titan powered up, its engines roaring as it moved toward the Council's fleet, pushing through the chaos of battle. As it approached, Jara and the others held their breath. Titan was the key to their survival, but it was also their last chance to avoid total destruction. The giant war machine stopped just in front of the Council's fleet, its weapons powered down. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, a message was broadcast to the Council's ships. "We are not your enemies. We fight only to protect our future. Let us speak, or this war will consume us all." For what felt like an eternity, the Council's ships remained silent. Then, a voice echoed across the battlefield, crackling through the communication channels. "We will hear you." Jara closed her eyes, relief flooding through her. The battle was far from over. But Earth had made its stand. It had proven that it was no longer just a small, insignificant planet. It was a force to be reckoned with. And in that moment, Jara knew that the future of Earth and the galaxy was about to change.